Hi guys, thank you for joining. Today I thought I'd do something really simple. Just gonna paint some trees and I'm using Rockwell Vahe paper and Rockwell watercolors. I thought I'd do something really simple. So we're gonna start. So what I did is I taped the paper on my board. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do two washes. So we're gonna take a tape and we're gonna put it in the middle. All right, we're gonna take a round brush and we're gonna do a wash on top. And we're gonna keep these two different colors. Okay, so I'm gonna do a simple sky wash on top. I'm gonna go all the way down. You guys could do this with me. So what we want is a nice wash. All the way down. And on the bottom, we're just gonna add some grass. That's it. And then we're gonna let this dry a little bit. Okay? On top of this, I'm gonna do trees. Okay, so the second one on the bottom, we're gonna do a little bit different colors. I'm gonna do a swamp here. So these are gonna be a few basic trees here. And on the bottom, we're gonna do a little bit different, a little bit more complicated one. So I'm gonna do another wash. We're gonna keep it a little bit darker. I'm gonna add some raw sienna onto this wash. We have ultramarine mixed on the top. And I made it dirty by adding some burnt sienna to it on top. We're gonna go a little bit more darker on the top. We're gonna even it out. We're gonna go all the way to the bottom. So this one here is gonna be a swamp. We're gonna add some trees in this line horizon here. And this one's just gonna be irregular. So you wanna let this dry a little bit before you start doing the trees. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my hair dryer. I'm gonna blow dry this before I start. But I just wanna indicate the horizon here a little bit. And these are easy exercises you guys could do at home. to learn how to use watercolor. So we did a basic wash on top, a little bit more complicated on the bottom. You want to wipe the water on the bottom. You don't want to leave this water because it's going to get on the surface on the bottom. So just wipe it with a paper towel. And I'm just going to blow dry this really fast. So I'm going to put you guys on mute for a second. Okay, so there's a few different ways we could do this. We're going to take a fan brush. We're going to take a fan brush and we're going to do the trees, and then we're going to do the stems. So the first thing we're going to do on top, I'm going to do a few different trees here. So we're going to pick a color. First one, I'm mixing ultramarine with my green. And you're going to dab it with the side of the brush and think of it as a shape. Okay. Now you could add a little bit more other colors in there. So I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna in my mixture. So you can see a little bit more brown in there. Okay. So pretty easy, right? Just dab it. You want to go a little bit darker on the bottom. So we're going to add more ultramarine blue. And we're going to dab the bottoms. Now we could break it a little bit, the edges. Okay. I'm going to come back to this. Second way you could do it, you could take one of these brushes, you could swipe it on the side of it. It's kind of dry brushing it. So this one's going to be an orange tree. So you could drag it. There. Now we want to introduce a few darks. So we're going to mix a little bit darker color. And you could even open this up like this. Do a couple of dry marks. There. Okay, for this one, just gonna introduce a couple of lighter spots. And then I'm gonna go really dark, break up the tree a little bit. So we're gonna do one more tree. I'm gonna take a smaller fan brush. And this one, we're gonna dab it at an angle. So you wanna dab it roundish, more of an angle. I'm gonna take a darker color. Dab it again. And now we're gonna do our stems. So we're gonna take a liner brush. You could use smaller brushes on these. So I'm gonna mix a brown. What you wanna do is you wanna go in between the So we're just gonna add these stems inside it. Now we're gonna darken up our color just a little bit. And on the tops where there is no sun hitting it, I'm just gonna do a couple of darker ones. So you did the branch. Go a little bit darker on the bottom. So now we're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to use a different color. I want to go a little bit grayish on this one. So I'm going to come back. And do all the branches with a smaller brush. You want to go a little bit thicker on the bottom. I'll just make the color a little bit more darker. And just hit it in a few places, or it's more shadowy. You can do this pretty fast. So there are two different kinds of trees here. Then I'm going to do another one. Same thing here. We're going to do the branches. Darken the color a little bit. There in a couple places. Another cool thing you could do is you could take a blade, you could scrape some branches in here. Kind of looks cool with the white coming through. It works better on a darker surface, so if your tree is not that, your leaves are not that dark, you won't do it. But we could do it on this one here. Okay, so now I'm just gonna give it a shadow on the bottom of the trees. So we're gonna take this fan brush. We'll add a little bit of ultramarine on there, so it looks more like a shadow, it looks more bluish. And there you go, you could practice doing trees like this at home. And on the bottom one, we're gonna do it a little bit more complicated. We're gonna do a swamp really quickly. So let me just clean up my palette really fast. So I'm gonna be using my fan brush again. So you wanna get a nice wash on your palette first before you start. So I'm mixing that right now. There, so we're gonna keep it as a shapes, okay? And this part is gonna be our ground, going all the way down. And in the same wash, you could change colors. So you could introduce a little bit of green, ultramarine, now I'm putting a little bit of ultramarine in there. So there's going to be a few different trees coming down to this grass area. So we're going to keep them as shapes. You could change the color just a little bit. So if you wanted to go more further down in perspective, you use more water. If you want it to come more towards you, you use more paint so it's thicker. So you could practice this at home. There, just try to get the shape of the tree. So we have a couple of different shapes here. And then I'm going to go back and do the stem, the tree branches. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the same color and we're going to do our branches. So now it's looking more like a tree. Okay, so now, since this is water, I want to give it a reflection of the trees coming down to the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spray this part, so just cover it so it's a little bit wet. So now that if I do the trees, it's going to blend in and it's going to look more softer. So you want to do the reflection on the bottom, just a little bit how it looks. And since we wet it, it's not going to be as hard. And I could wet it a little bit more. There. Same thing, just take the smaller brush, do a couple of stems, connecting these trees. Makes it look like it's reflecting in the water. And now this part is a little bit drier, so I could come back with a few more brush strokes that are a little bit darker. And one more time, I want to separate the land from the water a little bit, so I'm going to go a little bit darker on here where it's touching the water. So I'll show you from here. So that's pretty much it for this exercise. So we just used pretty much two brushes, a liner and a fan brush, and you lay it in as shapes. You lay in the leaves first, and then you come back, do the stems, and then you let it dry a little bit so you can come back and do some of your darker shadow areas. So you can practice at home and tell me how you guys like this exercise. If you guys enjoyed this, please comment below so I could do more exercises like this. I was feeling like my stuff was getting too complicated, the stuff that I work on, and people weren't following as much. So sometimes I'm gonna take a break from complicated stuff and do these simple exercises for people to be able to follow what I'm doing when I'm doing an actual painting. So, and then when it dries out, you could just take your tape out. And there you go. You could add some birds if you want here. It looks kind of empty. I have a live event on December 14th on the Gevorkian Academy in Burbank. The link is in my profile. If you guys want to join for a live event and learn more, please join me then. This will be it for the exercise, painting trees. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys for joining.